All right, I'll stop that. The mic works. That's all. I'm just checking the mic works. Anyway, what are we doing? Where did we leave off? We left off with freeCodeCamp.com. One of their challenges here, we're doing a weather API, and I've got some things that I wanted to kind of work through with you today. I'm going to start off by doing things a little differently. Now, usually I don't even go over this stuff. I would just stop and show you up on the whiteboard. But I've noticed that there's people watching that actually aren't in the room with me or that aren't my students, so I figured I might as well go over some of this stuff here. So I took some extra time, and I just made a little chart of some basic things that I'm going to go over. And I've even gone so far as to post it up, and I'll share it with you. So if this makes sense to you, and makes more sense this way than another way, or that you've seen before, let me know. That's why there's little comments down below. Even my guys, if you like this way better, let me know. And what does it look like? Well, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you. I'm going to try to break this down by breaking down my program into this. All right. Now, we do have to understand that we do have a scope. All right. So here we have our entire program being the entire sheet of paper. And the first thing we're going to do is declare that we want to start our program and then declare global variables. Now, global variables can be used anywhere below. See how it's inside this piece of paper? Therefore, we can use it. Okay. The next thing that we want to look at here is we need to come up with little helper functions. All right. So I'm going to have two main helper functions here. The first of which is going to be a Celsius to Fahrenheit helper function, which is just going to be a bit of math that's going to let us convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. All right. Now, the data that we're going to get is specifically going to be in Fahrenheit, but I want to be able to click a button and switch that back to Celsius and then go back and forth accordingly. Okay, so that's what I want to do. All right, and then I'm going to use that helper function. Then I also want to use another helper function here that's going to replace HTML. Okay, so I have those HTML IDs that I can replace using jQuery, and that's what I want to do. So I want to have a helper function that replaces those values, and it's going to be using this helper function up here. So there's a helper function that uses a helper function, even though they're separate. All right, it's going to go back, look at this function, and decide whether it wants to use Celsius or Fahrenheit and adjust the numbers accordingly. Okay. The next thing that I have is I want to be able to change this background image, and I'm going to do this a shorter way. I'm going to talk to you about a little bit better way to do this as well, or I don't want to say better, I just want to say a more complete way of doing it. But I'm taking a few shortcuts just for sake of time, and I'll show you what those are. And then this blue area is going to be my main function, my main program here. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to get some JSON data for the location. All right, so I want to figure out where the people are. Then I want to use that data into my weather API. So I'm going to take that location data, feed that location data into my weather API. And then inside of that function, I want to be able to click on a button for using those on-click functions to toggle between Celsius and Fahrenheit. If I won't, remember, this will bounce out and use the helper function. I also want to place the data here. So I actually want to, we've already declared this stuff up here, right? We declared the helper functions. This is where we use them. So we're going to use this Celsius to Fahrenheit here. Then we're going to use the place data or render HTML here. And then we're going to have a background image array. And this background image array, again, is just going to be an array of images. That's all it is. So just a list of images. And I want to set the background to one of those items in the list of the image using a clever little trick that I found. That works pretty awesome without a whole bunch of if, else, while, all that kind of junk. Simple logic. Simple works best. Whew. That's a lot, right? So this is where we are right now. We have a setup. This is where I left off. I have this current local weather that bounces back to the top. I have a button that does nothing and a link to my work just because I can. You can also put a little link to Twitter or whatever else down there you want or other social media that you need. And right now I have nothing. This is all HTML, CSS. And here is my JavaScript. Notice I have some things commented out that I'm going to talk about in a second. The first thing we need to know is how are we going to get location? Well, freeCodeCamp showed us one way to do it, but for some reason I couldn't get it to work here in CodePen, so I just Googled and I found this. All right, so I said I need to know location, free location API. Okay, and here's the documentation. This is what came up. This is freegeoip.net. And notice it even gave me right off the bat some of my location data, which is kind of cool. And so you can see where it's showing you where I am, in case you want to come stalk me, which is great. Anyway, so this is what happens. You just make this call here, all right? And you have a GET request and whatever format that you want, all right? So you just feed it what kind of format. And the format that you can get, usually you just pick, I'm going to pick JSON data. So I'm just going to go to freecodeCamp.net/JSON, and that'll get me JSON data that I want, all right? So if I go to freecodeCamp.net/JSON, which is already here, hey, look, it tells me where I am, all right? All of my wonderful coordinates and even my metro guide and some other stuff here. So that's how that works. It's pretty simple. It automatically just reads where you are and spits it back out in form of JSON data. Nice. All right, and there's another sample there where you can see all this stuff where I am sitting here at the high school. So, alrighty. Makes some pretty good sense, right? Remember, an API is just a web page that feeds you back some data. You ask them something, they send you something back. Instead of serving you up a web page, they can serve you up some data and a simple object data like JavaScript object notation. JSON, that's where that comes from, in case you weren't paying attention. All right, what else do we need to know? Well, we're going to be using this Open Weather API app. Now, Open Weather API. Now, this again, this came right from freecodecamp.com, right inside of the challenge itself. They said, go to this Open Weather app and figure this thing out. And that's all they really gave us. They really didn't give us anything else besides that. So this is what it looks like. And all I did was click on API here because that's what I want. I want the API. So if you come in here, it says API, and you can go into the API documentation. Now this, because you can use this for professional uses or just for goofing off. If you take a look at the price here, we want the free one. We're not professional enterprise developer. I'm not paying $180 a month for this. I just want something simple. Look at this, calls per minute. How many times you can go get data per minute is limited by 60, all right? You have a current weather API, which is what we want. You can also get a bunch of this other stuff, this 3 to 5 day, 3 hour forecast, or the weather maps API as well for free, which is kind of cool. And it tells you about their availability, and the weather's updated every 2 hours or so. And they give you some help desk, and it's free. So all you have to do is go ahead and sign up, not to sign in, but sign up. And when you do that, you'll get an account by signing in, and then they will give you an API key, which is a long number thing. All right. The next thing I want to show you in this documentation is what you get. So here is an example of a call you can make. So weather, and usually you see this question mark, which means that something's going to come after that. All right, some other chunk of data is coming after that. In this case, here is a sample for London. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to make a little bit nicer call here using latitude and longitude. But they will spit back out a coordinate. All right, now take a look at this. You have coord. All right, notice that we are in an object. All right, and then over here we have another object here for coordinate. And then we have a weather array. All right, now we're going to be feeding this a longitude and latitude actually. So we're not going to get this first chunk here. We're only going to get started actually at this weather. How do I know that? Well, because I made the API call and just sent that to the console log and saw what I got. So that's one way to do it, actually, to see exactly what you're looking for. Or you can actually copy and paste it in your browser the way you're making the call itself, and it'll tell you what you got there as well, just so you know. So here's weather. So we start off in this object, then we have weather, and now weather has an array. So notice this, how weather has an array, and it has an array of one object. Therefore, this whole object in this array is going to be designated by like weather and then bracket 0. And then from there, we can start by using these key value pairs. So you can call the key for ID and you'll get the value of 500. You can ask for the main, it'll tell you rain. You can ask for the description, it'll say light rain. And it'll even give you the icon, and the icon is an icon number. Cool, so how can we use all of that information? Well, hey, look, here's the icon number. And when you go out to the icon number, it'll give you an icon. Now, it depends whether it's day or night. And these are all the icons they spit back to you. Neat, right? They also have a weather condition code. So where is our weather condition code at? Well, that is going to be at this point 500. So if you go to ID 500 and we scroll down to our weather condition codes down to 500, you see light rain. And here is the symbol they're going to give you during the day. All right, so that means it's light rain and it's during the day, and that's what they're going to serve up to you. All right, pretty cool. So we can use that exact icon inside of our app, which makes it very nice. The way that I'm going to categorize my backgrounds, we could actually take each one of these icons here, categorize them, and say, okay, when I get this icon or when I get this code here, all right, we could actually go and find a picture for this exact thing right here, all right, which is sunny or very clear, and then clear at night. So clear during the day, clear at night. All right, and then here's a few clouds. So you come up with a few clouds here and a few clouds at night, and then scattered clouds, and so on and so forth. Okay, but that would be a lot of images. All right, so what I've done is I just decided to break this down even simpler. All right, and just say, okay, look, this 200 group. Now, what's this 200 group? It's no longer the icon we're talking about, but it's that ID number, and that ID number in the weather. Okay, that weather ID number. It says that something in the 200s is a thunderstorm. There's all these variations of that. So all I decided to do is say, okay, if it's in this group of 200s, I'll put a picture of a thunderstorm. If it's in this group of 300s, put a picture of drizzle in the background. If it's in this group of 500s, I'll do rain. 600s is snow. 700s is fog or mist or smoke or haze. So I just put in like fog, I think. The number 800 itself is clear sky. And anything over 800 is generally going to be something with clouds or tornadoes or something. So I just did cloudy because it was easy. So that broke down how many images I had to find, and I just going to stick those in an array. And notice that if I go back here, you notice I have a background image array that I'm going to be accessing down here in my main function. So that's a lot. Let's go back to here, and you can see, look, I've actually have the code written down and says if it's anything up to 299, which means it's in the 200s, it's a thunderstorm of some kind. And I just Googled thunderstorm, and I found an image that gets through my web filter. Then the next set all the way up to almost 500, so up to 499, any number that's in between 299 and 499 is going to be drizzle. Anything from 499 to 599 is rain. Up to 699, then it'd be snow, and then 699 to 799 will be fog. 800, just the number 800 itself, is going to be clear, so I got a clear sky, and anything over that is just going to be cloudy. And here are all the images I found for those, okay? And I just actually wrote down the number, what it meant, the number, what it meant, then I went out to Google and did that. So you're going to have to do that, and you're going to have to find an API key. Here is my API key. Do not use my API key because you need to get your own API key because you can only make so many calls a second. If you just copy mine, all right, it's not going to be very helpful to you because then it's just no longer going to work. So I might actually go out and clear this one out when I'm done, so that way I'll just get another one. All right, and you can get another one just by asking them for another one. You just say, have another one and put a new name on it. They'll give you another key. I'm not sure exactly the limit on keys they'll give you, but they do give you quite a few keys. So it's a very simple thing. You just type in email address, that sort of stuff, right in here when you go to sign up. All right, sign in, sign up. All right, so you know what I mean? Like there's my email. But if I go to sign up, it just email this. I am not a robot. These CAPTCHA things are really annoying. All right. But if I wanted to sign in on mine, and you can see what this looks like, and you can even see how I just tested to get more API keys if I want. All right, and you can get as many as you need, and I have things for test keys, so on and so forth, which is fine. All right, just use your own API keys. It just makes it easier. Otherwise, I have to delete those and then click a button and wait 10 minutes. So it's not that big of a deal for me, but it will be for you because yours won't work. So just get your own. Anyway, so here we go. I have some logic down. I figured out what my background array is going to be and why I need it. I know I need to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit at some point, and I'm going to need something to place data at all those ID tags as well. So there's all of our logic of what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and start by, let's get this background image array started. All right, so I'm just going to do this. I am going to say, I'm going to start my document, right? So let's do the shorthand here for jQuery. Let's double check if I enabled jQuery. I did. Okay, good. So I'm going to start my document all the way down here, actually. And what's cool is there's a long way and a short way. So here's the shorthand for it. You don't have to say document ready. You can just get over here and jQuery function. All right, function, and this is going to be my main function right here. Okay, and I have a warning that says unexpected token. I have an unexpected token because I did it wrong. Because it goes like this, and then like this, and then like that. That's why. Function with the brackets, then you open and close it. And then notice it's a bracket, and then a curly brace, then just a normal parenthesis bracket, whatever. There we go. Anyway, that's how it's supposed to be done. Anyway, so let's go in here, and I'm going to start off by declaring some helper functions, or maybe I'll even start off with, why don't we start off with our global variables? Let's do that. So you're going to need some global variables. By some, I mean, let's go with 2. I'm going to just have 1 that's going to be a Boolean variable for Celsius. So I'll make it capital C. All right, and I'm going to set that equal to false, which right away tells my program that it's a Boolean variable. So I'm going to use this Boolean variable false because I'm going to be getting data that is in Fahrenheit when I make it the API call. And then when they click the button, I just want to toggle this back and forth between false and true, and then use that to do all of my math. All right. And I'm just going to create a variable to store API data in, just so when I do math to it, I don't really touch it. This isn't entirely necessary, but you don't have to do this. But I'm just going to declare that up here. You can declare it locally in the functions, but I'm going to keep my API data separate from the data that comes back from the call, because I only want to make an API call, especially for the weather once, because it's really limited how many times you can do it. Not to mention it takes time to get that information back and forth. So I can store the data in this variable I get back and then use it. Remember, it's going to be an object. Okay, so it's going to be object data that we're going to query, and this is where I want to put it. All right, after I get it. And then I can use that data anywhere if I want later on. You don't really have to do that right now, but that's just the way I'm going to do it. All right, so that's all I really need. I just need a toggle for true and false. I'm going to be using that a lot. And somewhere to store my data in case I want to use this somewhere else. All right, that works out pretty well. The next thing I need to do is I need to make a background image array. I'm going to do that. So it's a little out of order of this. I mean, this is just the way when I figured out my original program, the way it was laid out. And then but these, since they're all helper functions, they're in black. They could be in any order. Really, it doesn't matter. All right. So I'm going to start off with my background image. All right. I'll say background image. All right. So that's going to be an array. All right. But since I'm having an array here, I'll say background image, and it's going to be an array. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my background image, and I'm just going to stick all these in here for now. And you're going to see how this kind of translates in a minute. But for right now, I'm just going to copy it in this order. Notice I have it in ascending order, just like this in the API, and that's going to become more important for our logic a little later on. It actually just makes things a whole lot easier for us. Control C. And Control V. All right. Now, notice that when I did this, inside of here, all right, they have to be in quotes, because if you see what's going on, see how it says the HTTP, then this // it comments out. All right, so make sure you put these in quotes. All right, and then when you're done with one, it's going to be a comma, and then I'm just going to hit return just so I can see these better. So I have a thunderstorm followed by a drizzle. All right, comma, followed by my all-out rain. All right, followed by snow. Let's see. Followed by fog. Again, just make sure these get through the current internet filter you have. All right. Followed by clear. Almost there, guys. This is About as exciting as watching paint dry, I know. Followed by whatever I picked for cloudy. Let's see. V. Right? And there we have our array. You don't really need this last comma, but I don't know. I'm going to put it anyway because I can. There we go. There's my background image array. So I have my background image array done. I'm going to tick that one off because that's easy. Doesn't require much logic. I'm just copying and pasting stuff across. So that's easier now. So there's my one little helper thing. So that's there. Okay. I'm going to give myself some more space. I'm going to try to visually chunk this as well. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to declare a function. And so this function is going to be something we're going to use for Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay, so I'm going to have a function. All right. And in this function, what I want to do is I'm going to give it a name of display temp. And this display temp, all right, is going to be the temperature that is displayed, okay, not the temperature I get from the API, okay, which is going to be important. And I want to take two things in, okay. I want to take in two things. I want to take in this C, all right, which is either going to be true or false. And I want to take in the Fahrenheit temp that I get from the API data. So I'm going to require two things to go into this I'm going to use later. One is going to be my Fahrenheit, all right, parameter, whatever that Fahrenheit is. And then I'm going to take in the C. Okay, so F is going to be the Fahrenheit temp from the API, and C is just going to be a true-false value. That's it. Okay, and so we're going to figure this out. And so it's going to be my display temp. And it's going to be pretty simple here. And I'm just going to say if something, so this statement needs to be true. So I can use this C because it's a true and false statement. So if C is true, which means they're looking for Celsius here, all right, all I want to do is I want to return I'm going to round this actually. Math.round. Okay, I'm going to return math.round. We need to take, this is, so you take the temperature minus 32 and multiply it by 5/9. Okay, so in order to do this math, it's going to look like this. So I'm going to have another set of parentheses, and this is going to be the F minus 32. Remember now, F coming in is going to be a number. So all the things I put in here need to be numbers, all right? So watch my parentheses. So I'm rounding this math, F minus 32 times, all right, times 5/9. So how do you get 5/9? Again, this is going to have to be in parentheses, 5/9. Remember, order of operations. I'm going to round all of this, okay? So here's my return. I'm going to return math round. This is going to be a number. And since I'm rounding it, it's going to be a simple integer. And then to that, I want to add the degree symbol. So what does the degree symbol look like? Well, the degree symbol, all right, if you remember when we did, I think we did a little bit of this in Caesar Cipher and a few other the algorithm challenges where we looked up what the actual code was for all these different values. The code that we want to use here for the degree symbol is an ampersand DEG semicolon, I believe. Semicolon. Right? And again, you can Google that. I'm pretty sure that's right. So again, this is going to be a string that's going to be that little degree. So this is going to be degrees. All right. And what I want is I want to add in that C, right? So I want a space and then C, as in the string value. So I'm returning a string that starts off with this integer doing math plus the degree symbol C. That's if Celsius is true. This variable Celsius is true. All right. So if it's not true, all right, if it's not true, then I'm just going to return All right, and I don't need an else because assuming that this is false, it's going to go right to this return, and it's going to bounce right outside of this function. If that is true, it's going to hit this return, bounce outside of the function. So again, I'm just trying to make this as slick as possible, the least amount of stuff in it as possible. All right. Again, it's just going to be math.round because I want to round that number because they give it to us in some long decimal that nobody really measures weather in. All right. I want to round my f, just a whole number. Then I want to plus, and then the same thing I have here, except change C to F because that says degree C. So Control C, Control V, and I want to change Celsius to Fahrenheit. And again, this is going to return a string. All right, so this is now a string value, and that's it. That's all there is to my going from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So anytime I want to change Celsius to Fahrenheit, all I have to do is toggle my Boolean variable from true to false, right, and say display the temperature. It's going to look at it and say, oh, look, C is, yes, it is C. I'm going to take this F, which comes right from the API, change it to Celsius, and then add that little degree symbol, a space, and then C. Otherwise, just round the number that it's given, and then return that little degree symbol, a space, and then the letter F. So it looks like degrees F, degrees C. Okay. So this will be my helper function anytime I want to take anything and go back and forth with it, but from Celsius to Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit to Celsius, all right? Because I'm not actually going back into Fahrenheit. Remember, the API data itself is giving me Fahrenheit. So I'm either using the Fahrenheit or I'm making it Celsius. Using the Fahrenheit or taking it to Celsius. I'm not changing anything. I'm not changing that variable, okay? Which is important to note. So I have that helper function done. And let's see here. I'm not going to give us our rendering function here yet. All right. Our rendering function needs to do a few things here. So our rendering function needs to take in the data from our JSON call. But before I really get into this, I'm just going to give ourselves a block of information that I'm going to call render. All right. Or maybe I'll just say render. All right. And that's going to be a function. So let's leave that function render right there for now. The reason is it's going to be kind of hard to explain it to you unless I go back down to see what it does. Now, remember, all of this stuff we can kind of code in line with what we're doing, but then things become nested. So what that means is all I did is I could take all this black stuff here and stick it inside of another square, inside of another square, inside of another square here. All right, but you can see as far down as we get inside of these little squares, inside of a square, which means inside of a function, inside of a function, inside of a function, all right, it's going to become very difficult to read. So I've just tried to actually separate the stuff out as much as possible to make the logic as easy as possible, which is what we want to do. All right. So there we go for right now. And so I'm going to kind of leave this right here for now. So we went through and I made one helper function. I made a background image. We've explained these two APIs that we're using. And when we come back, we're going to get started on the main function. All right. And then the last broken out function, which is actually a pretty small piece of code right there. All right. So hopefully that gets you to where you need to be. And that gives you plenty of time to go find all these images and stuff you need, because I know that's kind of a pain to do. So go ahead, get all your images straight, come back around, and then I will see you back here next time, and we will finish this thing up, and it's going to look really nice and slick. All righty. Hopefully that was helpful, guys, and I will see you all next time.